Let's go to Luke chapter 22. And in preparing this, there are some logistical problems in sorting through the different gospel accounts of the timing of things about this time. Okay, these events we're going to go over. These problems are easily solved because the problems really occur through translational nuances. Okay, but if you look at the accounts in the Gospels, they don't seem to line up very well, but they do. They do. Now, keep in mind that Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread are considered one feast. Passover is not a separate thing. As a matter of fact, Passover is the preparation day for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, what has to be prepared for the Feast of Unleavened Bread? You got to get the yeast out. And that's the last day. You've got to get that done on Passover Day. Okay? That's why it's called Preparation Day. Now, some people mistakenly look at, when it says Preparation Day in the Gospels, it's referring to Passover. It's not referring to a Friday, okay, the sixth day of the week. That's what some people think, and that's fine because the misconception, too, is that Good Friday, okay, was a Passover day. But no, it wasn't. It was a Thursday. We'll look at that again, too. But that's where that comes from. Now, we're told in John, the time of the crucifixion of Messiah was on Passover Day, upon which Pilate would traditionally release a prisoner in Judah. In, John 18, verse 39, "But you have a custom that I should release someone for you at the Passover. Do you wish then that I release for you the king of the Jews?" Now, it's stated once again that in John, this was on Preparation Day when Yeshua was nailed to a tree. That's in John 19, starting at verse 14. Now, it was the day of preparation for the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. And he said to the Jews, "Behold your king." They therefore cried out, away with him, crucify him." Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." So he then delivered him to them to be crucified. Now, when it says the 6th hour, what time is it? Not at that, exactly. That's what they do. They count the hours. They start when the sun comes up. So we're talking about noon. Okay? So when he said he was killed about the 9th hour, which is when you're thinking of. And that would have been about 3. Now, and that's in Luke 23, verses 44 and 45. "It was now about the 6th hour, darkness fell over the whole land until the 9th hour, and the sun being obscured, the veil of the temple was torn in two." The Passover lamb was to be sacrificed at twilight. Now, that's a difficult term. It's probably between noon and the evening, which the middle of that time would be about the 9th hour or 3 p.m. In Exodus 12, verses 5 and 6, "Your lamb shall be an unblemished male, a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel is to kill it at twilight." Now, I have read some people say that the Hebrew word there for twilight means between the evenings. Okay? And I think that's probably correct. It just has to be done between the evenings on the 14th. Okay? Now, with that being the case, let's start with Luke chapter 22, the first verse. "Now the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is called the Passover, was approaching. And the chief priests and the scribes who were seeking how they might put him to death, for they were afraid of the people. And Satan entered into Judas, who was called Iscariot, belonging to the number of the 12. And he went away and discussed with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money." Now, the text states that the Feast of Unleavened Bread was approaching. Now, we're told in Mark that the feast, meaning Passover, was still 2 days away at this point. This is in Mark 14. Verse 1 says, "Now the Passover and unleavened bread was 2 days off." And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to seize him by stealth and kill him. And Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went off, that's going down to verse 10, same day. Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went off to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. And they were glad when they heard this and promised to give him money. And he began seeking how to betray him at an opportune time. See, one way we know that these 4 accounts that we call Gospels are by individuals different individuals. Okay, there's theories out there that there is a general gospel and that they plucked their stories out from that in their own fashion. That's ridiculous. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. But we're always given different details. Same events with differing details, which is what you have if you have different witnesses giving their account of the story. So we had to go to Mark to see that Judas did this 2 days before Passover, offered to help them, to betray him. Go back to Luke 22, verse 6. And he consented and began seeking a good opportunity to betray him to them from the multitude. Now, can you all read that text from back there on these things? Is it clear enough? Okay, I made you a calendar here. Now, this was on a Tuesday, Nisan the 12th. Keep in mind, Nisan the 14th is Passover. And it was on this day that Judas meets with the chief priests. Now, that next day, Passover starts when the sun goes down. You see, we look at a Wednesday as from midnight to midnight, but they look at the day from sundown to sundown. So you get confusion and things like that. And I know we all have to call Mark and say, now, when does that feast day start again? Is it the day before or is it that day after? Well, read what the calendar says. Oh, it says day before. Okay. Thank you. But we still call Mark when these come around and say, what day is it again? I'm looking at the, never mind, day before. Thank you, Mark. Click. And then he does a great job on that calendar. It is no real simple task, but he's done it for so many years now, it's secondhand to him. Now, so Wednesday night Passover starts. Thursday is Passover. And Yeshua is killed at approximately 3 p.m. on Thursday. And then if you go to the 15th, which is Friday, that's the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread is a day of no work, right? They call it a high Sabbath. Yet we really don't there are several days in these feast days they call them in the Torah days of no work, where you do no customary work. They don't really call them a Sabbath. The only feast day that's called a Sabbath is Yom Kippur, and it's called the Sabbath, okay? There's no difference between a day of no work and a Sabbath, except the timing, all right? So they refer to it as a high Sabbath in the book of John, this first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So what you have is the death of Yeshua, and he gets put in in a grave that no one's ever been laid in before, and they start to prep the body. They run out of time. Sabbath starts. The day of no work starts. So he stays there all day Friday, and then Sabbath. When the sun goes down on Friday, well, that starts the Sabbath day. So he stays there. That's a weekly Sabbath. And sometime after the sun goes down on Saturday, between the time the sun went down and the sun comes up on Sunday, Yeshua rises from the dead. Okay, probably right after sundown, Sabbath's over. And you get your 3 days and 3 nights there. He was stuck in the grave Thursday. You got Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Then he rises. Okay, we got the timing down. Make sense? We're going to come back to that too, by the way. Verse 7 of Luke 22. Then came the day of unleavened bread on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare the Passover for us that we may eat it. And they said to him, where do you want us to prepare it? Now, this is where translational difficulties come into play. That verse 7. See, if you just read the text, it says, then came the first day of unleavened bread on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. But no, it's the first. By the way, the word first is not in the text. They insert it. They're considering unleavened bread and Passover to be one. Okay? So what they're saying is the day of Passover started. So where are we? The day of Passover started, so we're here on Wednesday evening. Okay? Passover started. In this, it says, then came the first day. I looked at that word in the Greek, and it also means coming. So really, this should read, then coming upon the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. It should be translated that way. The first, they added the first. I don't even think they understand the feast days, some translators. It's interesting. We just read that previous events took place 2 days before the feast. This was the next day. And notice that Yeshua told them to go and prepare a Passover for all of them, and they didn't know where to do it. Because he's saying, you're going to do it ahead of time. We're starting tonight. When actually Passover, we usually don't eat it until tomorrow night. Passover is supposed to be done to kill the lamb between the evenings, as we just talked about. Yeshua states in verse 15 that he's celebrating the Passover with them before he suffers, because he's going to be busy when the real Passover lamb, or the other, the lamb people are going to eat, is going to be slaughtered. So, let's see. Yeah. Here we are, Tuesday, is where he says, prepare the Passover for us, or Wednesday, that we may eat it. It was still on that Wednesday the day before. Then they ate it that night, which put it on Passover. Verse 10. And he said to them, behold, when you have entered the city, a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house that he enters. And you shall say to the owner of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he'll show you a large furnished upper room. Prepare it there. And they departed and found everything just as he told them, and they prepared the Passover. So Yeshua told them what they would see when they entered the city and what they were supposed to do. And everything was found just as he said. Verse 14, and when the hour had come, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say to you, I shall never again eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of Elohim. So he says he's never going to eat the Passover again until the Passover meal is made full in the kingdom of Elohim. And I'm wondering, I think what he's talking about here, it's likely the marriage supper of the Lamb is a description of the Passover. In Isaiah 25, starting at verse 6, and the Yahweh of hosts will prepare a lavish banquet for all peoples on this mountain, a banquet of aged wine, choice pieces with marrow, and refined aged wine. And on this mountain he'll swallow up the covering which is over all peoples, even the veil which is stretched over all nations. He'll swallow up death for all time, and Adonai Yahweh will wipe tears away from all faces, and he'll remove the reproach of his people from all the earth, for Yahweh has spoken. It'll be said in that day, behold, this is our Elohim for whom we have waited, that he might save us. This is Yahweh for whom we have waited. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. That's the Hebrew word Yeshua. Let us rejoice and be glad in his Yeshua. Going back to Luke 22, verses 17 and 18. And when he had taken a cup and given thanks, he said, take this and share it among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine from now on until the kingdom of Elohim comes. So he passes on the wine for Passover. He's not going to drink it. He tells them to share it among themselves. In my opinion, he's taken the Nazirite vow at this time. And he's going to stay. Now, what is the Nazirite vow for? What's its purpose? Set apart, right? Set apart for a certain service for the Father. That's it. And he is being set apart for for returning, and it's for a period of time. We don't know what that period of time is. The Nazirite vow was almost always done for a set period of time. They would decide for how long to do it. There's only a few of them that were lifers. Samson, Samuel, John the Baptist, I think they're the only three. Paul took it for a period of time, and other people did too. Verse 19. And when he had taken some bread and given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." So Yeshua said the unleavened bread they were eating is symbolic of him. When it says he gave thanks and he broke it, can anybody remember? This is just Passover that he's doing. Remember when we would take the bread? What bread did we break? That was the afikomen, remember? Yeah. That's what this is talking about. And remember how we had all the blessings every time? And that's what he's doing. And here, this is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. You know, he just told them earlier that he's the bread of life. In John 6, starting at verse 33, "For the bread of Elohim is that which comes down out of heaven and gives life to the world." And they said, therefore to him, "Master, evermore give us this bread." Yeshua said to them, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me, and yet do not believe." Let's go back to Luke 22, verse 20. "And in the same way he took the cup after they had eaten, saying, This cup which is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood." Notice that his blood is not the new covenant, but the new covenant is in his blood. It's through his blood that we receive the new covenant. Just as Moses sprinkled blood on Israel, his blood is the blood of the new covenant. In Exodus 24, starting at verse 6, "And Moses took half the blood, put it in basins, and the other half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people, and they said, All that Yahweh has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient. So Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, Behold the blood of the covenant which Yahweh has made with you in accordance with all these words." Moses sprinkled the blood on the people to designate their obligation to the covenant. With the new covenant, we're sprinkled with clean water, which is his word. In Ephesians 5, starting at verse 25, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Messiah also loved the assembly and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present to himself the assembly in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and blameless." Now, the washing of water really designates the Spirit of the Father. But how do we get the Spirit, the breath of the Father? Through the word of the Father. In Ezekiel 36, starting at verse 25, "And I'll sprinkle clean water on you, and you'll be clean. I'll cleanse you from all your filthiness and from all your idols. Moreover, I'll give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And I'll remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And I'll put my breath within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you'll be careful to observe my ordinances." The blood of Messiah is the blood of the new covenant, which makes us clean in the sight of Elohim because he places his word in our hearts and in our minds. Verse 21 of Luke 22. "But behold, the hand of the one betraying me is with me on the table. For indeed the Son of Man is going as it has been determined, but woe to that man by whom he is betrayed." And they began to discuss among themselves which one of them it might be who was going to do this thing. It was Judas who was chosen as the one who would betray Yeshua. See, he was chosen from long ago. It was prophesied 1,000 years earlier that he would do this. In Psalm 41, verse 9, we read, "Even my close friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me." Luke 22, starting at verse 24. "And there arose also a dispute among them as to which one of them was regarded as to be the greatest. And he said to them, The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who have authority over them are called benefactors. But not so with you. But let him who is the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as the servant. The disciples were arguing amongst themselves who's going to be the greatest. Who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom? For the life of me, I don't understand this argument. Okay? It doesn't make sense to me, but they were arguing over it. And Yeshua tells them how to be counted as the greatest. He does a contrast with the kings in the Gentile world. You see, the kings in the Gentile world rule over the common people, and the kings call themselves benefactors. Now, what's a benefactor? It's a doer of good, is what it means. Okay? So now the kings that rule over us, they say, I am the doer of good. Okay? I took your money and spread it around. I am the doer of good. Who's the doer of good? Not him. He didn't do anything. He just commanded things. Who's the doers? The kings call themselves doers of good, but who are the real doers of good? Those that serve the people. Okay? Those are the real benefactors. That's what he's saying here. Don't be like the Gentile kings who claim to be the do-gooders. Okay? And everyone serves them. No. No. Be like the servants. Be as the youngest and leader of servants. Verse 27, for who is greater, the one who reclines at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who reclines at the table? But I am among you as the one who serves. Yeshua says, who's greater? The one who served or the one who serves? Well, the kingdom of Israel is different than the kingdoms of the Gentiles. The greatest are the ones who serve others. Yeshua arrived, and you remember in the Gospel of Mark where Yeshua said to his disciples, build me a house and go to work and bring me some money. Remember when he said that? That's right, he didn't say that, did he? But instead, what did he do? He served others. He fed them. He healed them. He did everything for them. They said, do you pay your taxes? He said, just a minute. Someone get a fish. Didn't have any. When asked, should we pay taxes? He said, anybody have a coin? He turned his pockets inside out. You got a coin? I need to look at the coin, see whose face is on that thing. He didn't have any money. He was a servant. He was a poor man. He says, the birds have nests, the foxes have holes. The Son of Man has no place to lay his head down at night. Okay, he came and served everybody. That's a challenge for us today. Are we truly showing the love of others in the world today? Our love for others. We should be serving others at all times. His return is near. In Luke 12, verse 37, blessed are those slaves whom the master shall find on the alert when he comes. Truly I say to you that he will gird himself to serve and have them recline at the table and will come up and wait on them. Let's go back to Luke 22. Verse 28, and you are those who have stood by me in my trials. And just as my Father has granted me a kingdom, I grant you that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and you will sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So Yeshua said that his Father has granted him a kingdom. To sit at the table with the king is a great place of honor. Those who sit at his table are the ones who serve the most. Many will come from all parts of the earth and sit at his table. But many for whom the kingdom was initially intended and had the greatest chance to be a part of it are going to be cast out. In Matthew 8, verses 11 and 12, and I say to you that many shall come from east and west and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom shall be cast out into the outer darkness. In that place there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Verses 31 and 32. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has demanded permission to sift you like wheat. But I prayed for you that your faithfulness may not fail, and you, when once you have turned again, strengthen your brothers. Yeshua did not pray that Peter would not encounter Satan, but he prayed that Peter wouldn't fail. And we know what happens. Verse 33, and he said to him, Master, with you I'm ready to go both to prison and to death. And he said, I say to you, Peter, the cock will not crow today until you have denied 3 times that you know me. Yeshua knows Peter better than Peter knows himself. He tells Peter he'll deny Yeshua 3 times before the sun comes up. Today. Because they're there at night now. Keep that in mind. This is Wednesday night. Verse 35, and he said to them, when I sent you out without a person bag and sandals, you didn't lack anything, did you? And they said, no, nothing. Yeshua is reminding them they've been provided in a similar fashion that Israel was provided in the wilderness when they were wandering there. Deuteronomy 8, verses 2 and 3. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your Elohim has led you in the wilderness these 40 years, that he might humble you, testing you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and let you be hungry, and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you understand that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by everything that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh. Why is he making this comparison? I'll tell you why, because he's a prophet like Moses, and he's pointing that out to him. Okay? I provided for you when you went out. Remember, you didn't have it. I told you not to take anything with you. Did you lack for anything? No, we didn't. Okay. Yep, just like Moses in the wilderness, and the Father provided for them. Verse 36, and he said to them, but now let him who has a purse take it along, likewise also a bag, and let him who has no sword sell his robe and buy one. Up to this time, Yeshua personally saw to it that his disciples were prepared and lacking in nothing. And they lacked in nothing, but now their time of persecution is about to begin. He's telling them to prepare for it. Verse 37, for I tell you that this which is written must be fulfilled in me, and he was numbered with transgressors, for that which refers to me has its fulfillment. Yeshua is telling them they're about to encounter a time of his suffering and death, which is described in Isaiah. He quotes the end of the suffering servant passage in Isaiah 53 by saying, and he was numbered with transgressors. So let's take a look at that. It actually starts at Isaiah 52, verse 13. And this is indeed a remarkable passage. Behold, my servant will prosper. He'll be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Just as many were astonished at you, my people, so his appearance was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. Thus he'll sprinkle many nations. Kings will shut their mouths on account of him. For what had not been told them, they will see, and what they had not heard, they will understand. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of Yahweh been revealed? Okay, to whom? What does he mean, the arm of Yahweh? To whom has the arm of Yahweh been revealed? What does that mean, to reveal your arm? It's exactly what it is. Strength, power. To whom has the power of Yahweh been revealed? For he grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of parched ground. He has no stately form or majesty that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should be attracted to him. He was despised and forsaken of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And like one from whom men hid their face, he was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely our griefs he himself bore, and our sorrows he carried. Yet we ourselves esteemed him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. See, the people thought, this is Elohim punishing him. Okay? He was pierced through for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The chastening of our well-being fell upon him, and by his scourging we are healed. Anybody familiar with the Jewish explanation of Isaiah 53? And this never came out until the ancient sages called this the suffering of Messiah ben Joseph. They said there were going to be two Messiahs. There's going to be Messiah ben David, who's going to reign over the earth, and there's also going to be Messiah ben Joseph, who suffers for the people.
Which was a prophet who got a bad rap.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he got exactly. He was a prophet that got a bad rap. That's exactly who Joseph was. And he suffered, and what happened? Because of his suffering, all the people were saved. Now, that's why, so that's what the ancient sages said. There's going to be two Messiahs. One, son, when I say Ben, that means son. Messiah, son of Joseph, Messiah, son of David. But after this conflict between Christianity and Judaism comes out, and I'm not blaming the Jewish people. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I'm not blaming them. They refute this, and they refute a lot of things. And by the way, this is not a part of their, what do they call their yearly reading? Parashat? Yeah, this is not a part of the Parashat. Okay. Neither is Daniel 9, by the way, which is when it tells when Messiah would show up. They're not part of the Parashat. Once again, and Psalm 22, right. But like I said, I'm not blaming them. The conflicts have been many, and they've been the oppressed ones. Well, they claim that this is talking about Israel suffering for the sins of mankind. That's their explanation. Oh, it doesn't fit worth a darn. But I just thought I'd share that with you. But Yahweh caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him. And he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth, like a lamb that is led to slaughter, and like a sheep that is silent before its shearers, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away, and as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living for the transgression of my people, to whom the stroke was due? His grave was assigned with wicked men, yet he was with a rich man in his death. Who buried him? Yeah, it was a rich man. What was his name? Nobody remembers? Joseph of Arimathea. Thank you. Because he had done no violence, nor was there any deceit in his mouth. But Yahweh was pleased to crush him, putting him to grief. If he would render himself as a guilt offering, he will see his offspring. He'll prolong his days, and the good pleasure of Yahweh will prosper in his hand. As a result of the anguish of his soul, he'll see it and be satisfied. By his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will justify the many, as he will bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will allot him a portion with the great, and he will divide the booty with the strong, because he poured out himself to death and was numbered with the transgressors. That's the quote Yeshua used. Yet he himself bore the sin of many and interceded for the transgressors. Going back to Luke 22, verse 38. And they said, Master, look, here are 2 swords. And he said to them, it is enough. I think the disciples missed the point when Yeshua said to pray because they got difficult times coming. I don't think he is necessarily telling them to bring their swords with them right now. Okay? You're going to be needing them later, is what he's saying. Verse 39, and he came out and proceeded, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples also followed him. And when he prayed at the place, he said to them, pray that you may not enter into temptation. Yeshua was telling them to pray that they wouldn't enter into temptation. Now, he's not specific as to what temptation he's talking about in this case. But he wants them to be steadfast in obedience to the Father, especially after he leaves them. Remember, he doesn't have, the way they are at the present time, he doesn't have a lot of confidence in them. Okay? Just an hour ago, they were arguing over who's the greatest. Okay? So, now he's telling them things are going to get tough. It's going to take the breath of the Father within them to give them the strength to do anything. But he knows after he goes, they're going to be in trouble for a while. In Psalm 119, starting at verse 116, we read, "Sustain me according to your word that I may live, and do not let me be ashamed of my hope. Uphold me that I may be safe, that I may have regard for your statutes continually. You have rejected all those who wander from your statutes, for their deceitfulness is useless." And verse 133, "Establish my footsteps in your word. Do not let any iniquity have dominion over me." And Proverbs 30, verses 8 and 9, "Keep deception and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is my portion. Lest I be full and deny you and say, 'Who is Yahweh?' Or lest I be in want and steal and profane the name of my Elohim." Let's go back to Luke 22, verses 41 and 42. "And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and began to pray, saying, 'Father, if you're willing, remove this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done.'" Now, Yeshua knows that he's about to take the sins of the people upon himself. And he uses the term here, "if you're willing, remove this cup from me." Because that cup's an interesting thing. That cup is filled with the wine of the wrath of Yahweh. In Isaiah 51, start at verse 17, rouse yourself, arise, O Jerusalem, you who have drunk from Yahweh's hand the cup of his anger. The chalice of reeling you have drained to the dregs." What are the dregs? It's stuff at the bottom of a really good wine usually. It'll have dregs in it. And you usually filter those out and say, no, you're going to swallow those too. "Thus says your Adonai, Yahweh, even your Elohim, who contends for his people," verse 22, "Behold, I've taken out of your hand the cup of reeling, the chalice of my anger. You will never drink it again." In Jeremiah 25, starting at verse 15, "For thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, says to me, take this cup of the wine of wrath from my hand and cause all the nations to whom I send you to drink it. And they shall drink and stagger and go mad because of the sword that I'll send among them. Then I took the cup from Yahweh's hand and made all the nations drink to whom Yahweh sent me." See, the imagery used in Scripture is so powerful. So powerful. Verse 43, "Now an angel from heaven appeared to him, strengthening him." So an angel in heaven from the Father came to strengthen him. We're not given many details, but this similar thing happened to Daniel too, by the way. Daniel 10, starting at verse 16, we read, "And behold, one who resembled a human being was touching my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spoke and said to him who was standing before me, O Adonai, as a result of the vision, anguish has come upon me, and I have retained no strength. For how can such a servant of my Adonai talk with such as my Adonai? As for me, there remains just now no strength in me, nor has any breath been left in me. Then this one with human appearance touched me again and strengthened me. And he said, O man of high esteem, do not be afraid. Peace be with you. Take courage and be courageous. Now as soon as he spoke to me, I received strength and said, May my Adonai speak, for you have strengthened me. Verse 44 of Luke 22, And being in agony, he was praying fervently, and his sweat became like drops of blood falling down upon the ground. Now, Yeshua was in such agony. They say his sweat became like droplets of blood. Now, the sweat like droplets of blood, if you think back to Adam, after sin was exposed in the world, that caused him to eat bread by the sweat of his brow until his death. Genesis 3, verse 19, By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. And what Yeshua sweating like droplets of blood is another picture of him taking the sins of the people upon himself. Verses 45 and 46, And when he arose from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping from sorrow. And he said to them, Why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may not enter into temptation. Okay, somebody explain to me what sleeping from sorrow means. That one, I didn't quite get what that meant. Oh, I'm sad.
They don't realize. They never do realize it.
They don't know what's going on.
So that can't mean the fact that they realize that they're going to lose him.
Right. And sorrow doesn't induce sleep. I think what he's saying here, they're sleeping instead of feeling sorrow. I think that's what that means there. Sleeping instead of having sorrow. We're told in Matthew's account they fell asleep 3 times, and Yeshua got really frustrated with them. And that's we know about that, Matthew 26, it's 40 through 46. Let's go to Luke 22, verse 47. And while he was still speaking, behold, a multitude came, and the one called Judas, one of the 12, was preceding them, and he approached Yeshua to kiss him. But Yeshua said to him, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? The betrayal of Yeshua with a kiss is not directly prophesied, but it's alluded to in the Tanakh. Psalm 55, verse 21, his speech was smoother than butter, but his heart was war. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Proverbs 27, verse 6, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. Luke 22, verse 49. And when those who were around him saw what was going to happen, they said, Master, shall we strike with the sword? And a certain one of them struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Yeshua answered and said, stop, no more of this. And he touched his ear and healed him. We're told in John's account that this was Peter who drew a sword. In John 18, starting at verse 8, Yeshua answered, I told you that I am he. If therefore you seek me, let these go their way, that the word might be fulfilled which he spoke, of those whom you have given me, I lost not one. Simon Peter, therefore, having a sword, and drew it, and struck the high priest's slave, and cut off his right ear. And the slave's name was Malchus. Yeshua therefore said to Peter, put this sword into the sheath, the cup which the Father has given me, shall I not drink it? Now, what I think Yeshua didn't want his disciples killed in a sword fight. That wasn't his plan. Okay, he wanted them to have a sword, but not for tonight. And that's not the intention of their presence with him, was to get in a sword fight. They were there to accompany Yeshua and to be with him during his time of need. That's why he wanted them to come with him. But they slept during that. And then you have Peter, gets out his sword, and he cuts a guy's ear off. Now, does that tell you maybe he doesn't know what he's doing with the sword? Okay? Do you think he intended to cut the guy's ear off? No. He was trying to cut his head off.
I don't think at this point any of them really knew what they were doing.
Right. They didn't. You're correct. None of them knew what they were doing. Verse 52 of Luke 22, and Yeshua said to the chief priests and officers of the temple and elders who had come against him, have you come out with swords and clubs against a robber, as against a robber? While I was with you daily in the temple, you didn't lay hands on me, but this hour and the power of darkness are yours. Yeshua, he says, why? What's up with the swords and the clubs? You know I'm not a robber. You know I'm not a killer. This isn't necessary. He says, hey, I see you every day. I see you guys every day. Well, if he sees them every day, why did they need Judas? What was that purpose? That Judas, why did they pay Judas to do this? They knew what he looked like. They knew who he was. What was the purpose? You know what the purpose was?
Someone else would be at fault.
Not exactly. What?
One of Yeshua's people to basically say he's wrong.
He is wrong.
Yeah.
You guys are right in what you're doing. You got to get one of that. Get one person from the other side. Okay, from Yeshua's side to testify against him. Okay, that's what he's doing. It's even his own people know that he needs to be put to death. It's just an old political ploy. Verse 54, and having arrested him, they led him away and brought him to the house of the high priest, but Peter was following at a distance. And after they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had sat down together, Peter was sitting among them. And a certain servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the firelight, and looking intently at him, said, this man was with him too. But he denied it, saying, woman, I do not know him. So he denies Yeshua. So he denies even knowing him. This is the thing Yeshua warned his people against, okay? In Matthew 10, verse 33, but whoever shall deny me before men, I will also deny him before my Father who's in heaven. See, this is another, and not that it will do any good, but it's another reason why I want to do this study on people that, on this movement that of ex-Christians that start following Torah, then they throw out the Messiah and the Brit Hadashah. It's a very, very, very bad thing to do, okay, to deny the Messiah, especially when they once knew him. Very dangerous. And once again, this is not against the Jewish people or Judaism per se. It's against those that have known the Son, or at least apparently thought they did, and embraced the Torah and the Tanakh, and then they throw everything else out. Yeah.
If Peter the one that denied him 3 times.
Right. Yeah.
Well, right there, pretty well says where Peter's going.
Yeah, it's not good. But he's not done. He's not done. Yeah. Yeah, he's hardened the hearts and blinded them. Yeah. And he'll change that in his time. Yeah. It's on purpose. That's correct. You see, even with this being the case, we do see the forgiveness of the Father in what happened with Peter. In 1 John 1:9, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and righteous to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And when he talks about confession, he's talking about repentance also, by the way. Yeah. I don't know. Not by call.
I heard you. Okay. I got you.
Verse 58 of Luke 22. And a little later, another saw him and said, you're one of them too. But Peter said, man, I'm not. After about an hour had passed, another man began to insist, saying, certainly this man also was with him, for he's a Galilean too. And Peter said, man, I don't know what you're talking about. And immediately while he was speaking, a cock crowed. And the master turned and looked at Peter, and Peter remembered the words of the master, how he had told him, before a cock crows today, you'll deny me 3 times. And he went out and wept bitterly. See, so Peter went out and wept bitterly. He's mourning for his sin. Okay, this guy said, I recognize your Galilean accent. You're one of them. That's that southern Galilean accent. He said, y'all. And we around here don't say y'all, huh?
So if Peter would have said, so,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
they lock him up with Yeshua, or what?
Or what? Or it's that John was there talking to the chief priests and during the trial and everything.
They knew who they were.
Yeah, Well, he's denying it to people that are insignificant.
Yeah, I mean,
To a girl by a fire, to another guy that is there. He's denying it.
You just hang out.
Yeah, he's just scared. He's scared. You know, but he went out and he wept bitterly. Why is that? Because he's mourning over his sin. Yeshua said, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted, in Matthew 5:4. This scriptural principle, as all of them mentioned in the Sermon on the Mount in the Brit Hadashah, are rooted in the Tanakh. Psalm 126, verses 5 and 6, those who sow in tears shall reap with joyful shouting. He who goes to and fro weeping, carrying his bag of seed, shall indeed come again with a shout of joy, bringing his sheaves with him. Psalm 130, out of the depths I've cried to you, O Yahweh. Adonai, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my supplications. If you, Yahweh, should mark iniquities, O Adonai, who could stand? But there's forgiveness with you, that you may be feared. I wait for Yahweh, my soul does wait, and in his word do I hope. My soul waits for Adonai more than the watchman for the morning, indeed more than the watchman for the morning. O Israel, hope in Yahweh, for with Yahweh there is loving kindness, and with him is abundant redemption. And he'll redeem Israel from all his iniquities. Also in Jeremiah 31, verses 18 through 20. I've surely heard Ephraim grieving. You've chastened me, and I was chastised. Like an untrained calf, bring me back that I may be restored, for you are Yahweh my Elohim. For after I turned back, I repented. After I was instructed, I smote on my thigh. I was ashamed and also humiliated because I bore the reproach of my youth. Is Ephraim my dear son? Is he a delightful child? Indeed, as often as I have spoken against him, I certainly still remember him. Therefore, my heart yearns for him. I will surely have mercy on him, declares Yahweh. Going back to Luke 22, verse 63. And then the men who were holding Yeshua in custody were mocking him and beating him. And they blindfolded him and were asking him, saying, prophesy, who is the one hitting you? And they were saying many other things against him, blaspheming. So they blindfolded Yeshua and beat him. They were playing a game called Heavy Hand, where they would blindfold the prisoner and beat him, and they would have all the soldiers punch him in the face or kick him or something, except for one guy. And then he'd say, tell us who didn't hit you. And if you don't, we go through it again. And that's what they were doing. The Roman soldiers were sadistic and very, very cruel. Verses 66 and 67. And when it was day, the council of elders of the people assembled, both chief priests and scribes, and they led him away to their council chamber, saying, if you're the Messiah, tell us. But he said to them, if I tell you, you will not believe. The elders of the people assembled. They took counsel against the Father and his anointed. This too was prophesied. In Psalm 2, why are the nations in uproar and the peoples devising a vain thing? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointed. Let us tear their fetters apart and cast away their cords from us. See, once again, the Pharisees knew what they were doing and to who they were doing it to. Luke 22, verses 68 and 69. And if I ask a question, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of Elohim. Yeshua is quoting Psalm 110, verse 1, saying they're his enemies, and they soon will be his footstool. Psalm 110, verse 1, Yahweh says to my Adonai, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. So, that was a pretty strong statement he just made to those guys. That was a very strong statement.
They probably didn't get it either.
No, they probably didn't get it. You're right. Yep. In Daniel 7, verses 13 and 14, we read, I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like a son of man was coming. And he came up to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and men of every language might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. And finishing up Luke 22, verses 70 and 71, and they said, are you the son of Elohim then? And he said to them, yes, I am. And they said, what further need do we have of testimony? For we've heard it ourselves from his own mouth. By admitting he's the son of Elohim, and with the words Yeshua had been quoting them, he's warning them. Let's go back to Psalm 2, verse 7. I will surely tell of the decree of Yahweh. He said to me, you are my son, today I have begotten you. Verse 12, do homage to the Son, lest he become angry and you perish in the way, for his wrath may soon be kindled. How blessed are all who take refuge in him. You know, it's so interesting to me in talking to people who mock Yeshua as being Messiah. How do you explain these things like Psalm 2, like Isaiah 53, like Psalm 22, and then the one that's inescapable is Daniel 9 in the 70 weeks.
Which were written thousands.
Thousand years before it happened.
Yeah.
Well, it's 600. Yeah, 600 years before it happened. Yeah. So, and it tells when he's going to appear. I mean, how do you? It's sad. Of course, you know that's what the Pharisees are doing here. They're denying it.